everybody, to the Dr. Carolyn Dean live radio show featuring Dr. Carolyn Dean. Join Dr. Dean for the next 2 hours along with her host, cohort, and good buddy, Ginny Sanders, also known as Ginny Almighty. Join Dr. Dean as she shares with us her vast range of experience, knowledge, talent, and wisdom. Phone lines are now open, and we'll be taking your calls from around the world and here in the USA.
Welcome everyone to Dr. Carolyn Dean live here on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting humankind with universal love, or as I like to say, uniting Dr. Carolyn Dean with the whole wide world who absolutely, emphatically, unquestionably, and without a doubt require everything that she has and knows to be implemented in your life immediately in order to save you from the environmental pollution and toxins and all the bad food and bad choices and all the silliness that we've gotten ourselves into as a human race around the world. And so we're so happy she's still here with us, as she will be continually, perpetually, to teach us and to show us and to help us know and discern that we in fact are intelligently created and an amazing design by nature, and that the simple truth is that our bodies will emphatically heal themselves and perform even beyond what we could even expect if we just give them the basic building blocks. And within those basic building blocks come the formulations of Dr. Dean, along with some other basic building blocks like good light and good fresh air and some basic movement and some very good food choices. And so tonight we're here to talk with you about that, and we're very fortunate to have a guest panel with us that's joining us this evening as well, to talk about Dr. Dean's latest endeavor, which is the Total Body Reset for Men's Health book. And of course, we all know men. They're 50% of the planet. We absolutely love the men that we know, every single one of them. Yes, they're a little bit different than women, but we love our men always, all times, and we respect the heck out of them. And sometimes they get so busy and so challenged in their own lives, if their heads down trying to do all the things that they do, that they don't look up to take time for themselves. And we know we have a lot of powerful, positive women in our listenership who are always looking out for men, but there are also a lot of great men out there who look out for themselves, and that's who helped contribute to Dr. Dean's book. Hearkening to her wisdom and following some of her guidelines, they've made their way into a new level of health, vitality, or well-being by collaborating with her. So they wrote their stories down in a book, and Dr. Dean has launched it today, along with the webinar we're doing later this week. And so once again, she exceeds herself and always reinvents herself to bring the very best information that she can to an audience that's waiting for her to share her wisdom. And she always reaches out and collaborates with the best people, whether it's grassroots health or whether it's people like different people who've written her books, or Dr. Taylor Wallace, who's our research partner, or some of the men you're going to hear tonight. So we're so grateful to have you with us. And we will remind you, this is not a medical advice show, but we will certainly be talking about a lot of super fun and cool and groovy stuff with Dr. Carolyn Dean. And we welcome her to the stage. First, our very own Dr. Carolyn Dean.
Hello. Ginny, I was frantically texting Ginny because I couldn't hear anything. Oh my goodness, what's going on? And my audio was off. Seriously, I mean, it happens, now only every second week. So thank you.
Okay, I think we finished it. Did we finish it?
Yeah,
Yay!
I don't hear.
Okay.
I know, we didn't even get the children in here. Sorry, guys. Usually things work out. I don't know. I guess we won't assign blame to anyone right now.
No, we'll figure it out though. But okay, so here we are, Carolyn. We're back. Thank you, everybody. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Carolyn.
I mean, I was joking that since the guys are on, maybe it's their fault, but no, I won't go there. Yes. Let me just go over the email that Ginny sent out to announce the show. When it comes to men's health and lifestyle, men want what we all want. Men want to avoid major health threats such as heart disease, cancer, and injury. They want to maximize their ability to move, to work, to care for, and protect their families. And they want to feel young, vibrant, and alive. Capturing the true heart of men and revealing their strategies for health is the focus and content of Total Body Reset for Men. And Ginny, that's up now, is it, at drcarolyndeanlive.com?
It most definitely is. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So it's a free ebook. You can download it. It's around 200 pages. Tonight, we have invited several of the book's guest authors who contributed their stories to the book. Jeannie put in my introduction to the book. As a doctor, I can tell you what's important about the latest research and share what my patients and customers have reported. But as a female doctor writing about men's health, I have no personal experience to share. This is unfortunate since, as many of my readers know, I self-experiment as I develop products and protocols in order for men and the families who love them to have the same care given to men's health concerns as I give to women's health. At Ginny's suggestion, because I was having a hard time writing a men's health book, this is a sidebar for my introduction. So Ginny suggested that we ask our male customers and friends who are using our products if they could share their stories. So we have, about a dozen men in the book talking about their personal experiences with the Completement Formulas. And we have 3 of these men on with us today. So that is what I will say about that. But before Ginny introduces the men in the book and then our 3 guests, I'll just tell you this little anecdote, kind of. It's a testimonial that illustrates how we got to this point of having a men's health book, radio show, and webinar that's coming up on Thursday. One of our outstanding customer service people, Julie, sent a note saying, Janet, a nurse practitioner, called to express her overflowing excitement about Flora Refresh. Her husband has shingles, which looked like bug bites a few days ago. They sprayed on Flora Refresh, and within an hour, they began to see the skin lesions get better within an hour. The healing is advancing quickly, and there's no more itching and irritation, plus the swelling has gone down. Her husband is now fully convinced that he does not need the antiviral medication that the doctor offered, and that Dr. Dean's minerals are the answer. So this is from a customer, Janet, who's been on our products for a while. And it's kind of a bit of a tongue in cheek, because part of the reason I had trouble writing a men's book is because men really don't seem to focus on their health. It's the women or the partners that take care of them. And Ginny, I just couldn't help but talk about this testimonial, because it expressed exactly, the situation is, men just, in a generalization, sort of stand aside and wait for something really to poke them in the eye. But before I completely get off track here, I'm going to turn it over to Ginny to announce the guest writers and then our guests on the show. Take it away, Ginny.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Yes, and I know Carolyn and I always tease each other about this. Her husband, she's been very devoted to her husband's health, Bob. And but it's funny, my husband's very devoted to mine. So I guess it can go both ways. But fortunately, we've gotten some great guys, and a combination thereof, because we've gotten some great men who do really work diligently with the products and the formulas, and they're very committed to their health through their life experiences. And they are all featured in the book. And then tonight, we're very fortunate to have Jason with us from Just Grinding, which is his physical personal training studio that he does here in North Carolina. We've got James with us, who is now our national sales rep for pro accounts, works with your doctors, a lot of your doctors out there in our radio audience. He has his journey. And then in the second hour, we're going to hear from Greg Sanders, one of the very first people to ever use the RNA drops, and can talk about them with some precision and maybe some enthusiasm that others haven't heard about. And it is interesting that a lot of the men who've written for the book started their journey with the RNA drops. That's how they got attracted to our products. And it was the drops that got them going, and then the other products kind of folded in. So with the exception of maybe just two, which would be Taylor Wallace, Dr. Taylor Wallace, who's our researcher, and he got to us through the ReMag research project. And then also Kevin Greisel, who came to us through his cardiovascular issues and using ReMag and ReMind. But a lot of the other guys came to us through the drops. So we started saying, gosh, are the drops really a product that are geared more toward men? Because the drops have what men are looking for, which is stamina, endurance, strength, longevity, you know, those kinds of things. So we're going to explore that topic a little tonight. But I do want to say, when you download the book, Total Body Reset for Men, and it is at Dr. Carolyn Dean Live, it's the first book on the page under the book tab. If you go to the back page, which I think is page 210, you will see the contributors who are all here, and you can read about them, whether it's Kevin, James, as we talked about, Bertrand Hill, who's been with us for many years, Jack McClinton. You might have seen him on Dr. Dean's Instagram. They did a live session on Friday night. It was very good. Ben Pelton, who's another great, very accomplished athlete who's been using the products for many years. Michael Sandler, some of you recognize him. He's definitely a inspirational speaker and somewhat of a mystic who's gotten involved with our products. Jason, who's on the phone tonight. And then again, Dr. Taylor Wallace, who's not available to join us this evening because he's doing a research project in Guatemala with children, I think. So he's tied up and not available to contribute. But the three guys that we have on the phone tonight are going to be phenomenal in their own way, as we've already said, because they have such great information that you probably haven't heard from anybody else. So Carolyn, did you want me to say anything else before we invite Jason to come on the show?
No, that's a perfect launching pad. Let's bring Jason on.
Okay. Hey, Jason, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you. Yes.
Yay!
Yay! Yay!
Okay, so in your book, I thought, Carolyn, what did you think about Jason's story? I thought what Jason wrote was probably one of the most heartfelt things I'd ever read.
Oh yeah, it was pretty tear inspiring, you know, for someone to go through what you went through. And I guess what we'll do, Jason, is maybe if you could just give an overview of how you got to where you are now, able from your perspective to help other people in such an important way with your physical consultation. So we'll just turn it over to you if you don't mind.
Great. No, that's awesome. Thank you for having me. And yeah, a little bit about my story. I do some performance training for athletes, and I do some physical movement training for, you know, just people that want to be in shape. And that's where I met my excellent friend Ginny, who is the co-host of this show. And we work together a lot. So it's an amazing moment every time she comes in, and she loves my dog way more than she loves me, but I won't bring that up. But I try to call it a wellness center because I try to do more than just personal training or physical movement, especially with the younger kids, the younger athletes, because I picture myself as what I was doing at 8 or 12 or 13, and we didn't have a lot of science or understanding of what training was back then. And then, to take it a little bit back further, I had a traumatic brain injury when I was really young, and I fell off or got pushed off my mom's car and landed on my head. And, I was in suburbia Chicago back in the 70s, and there was no study brain science at all. They just probably said, oh, he got his bell rung, or he has a concussion, wake him up every, whatever that was, 15 minutes or 35 minutes. Don't let him sleep longer than that. I think that was the standard prescribed method of treatment back then. And, I don't have a lot of recollection of that time frame, going back and trying to figure out what happened or what was going on in my life. So from there, I struggled in my life with waking up and just not feeling right. It was like I had a darkness about me, and I would wake up, or I'd go to school, or I would be in life seeing people that are happy, and it would piss me off. And I'm like, why are they so damn happy? No one should be that happy. But I didn't understand why they were happy, because they just woke up that way, and I didn't wake up that way. So my struggle was seeing people happy, and I wasn't. And with the study now and doing research about, what that is, I can probably take it back to that moment in time where that happened, traumatic brain injury, and, put me into this journey of finding my light. And when I talk about light to me is the countless modalities that I do a day to make me feel or wake up happy, or wake up not feeling so bad, or able to handle life on its terms, as opposed to before when I was just like, this sucks. Not that I was a victim, I was just stuck in a perpetual darkness. And one of the things that really, what I thought was helping me was my self-prescription of, alcohol, beer, vodka, tequila, caffeine, and then eventually got into, some drugs later on down the line, and realizing that at those moments, I was feeling better, but I wasn't ultimately helping myself, because the next day I would be worse. So I was staying in a perpetual darkness, and I was perpetuating more of the darkness by taking depressants or things that would make you crash and feel worse. And so in my life, I've always been a searcher. So I've been on this journey of trying to find things that make me feel better. So long story short, I found that magnesium really helped me. And then I found your product, and thank you so much, which to me, after searching high and low and trying 7 or 8, 10 different products here and there of magnesium, yours fit my puzzle best, because it absorbed better into my body, and I didn't have to take as much or as many pills, because the amount of the dosage that I was taking now was sufficient. So one of my major modalities is your bountiful offer of minerals, the Remite, the Remag, the zinc, the potassium. These are like daily things that I take in order for me to stay in the light. And, I don't care what anyone else says out there, or how many doctors will say this or that. I know it works for me. And so I'm going to stand on top of whatever high mountain, and I'm going to scream as loud as I can. It helped me. It's one of the things that I know that I can do that's saving me from being in the darkness. So I have to thank you a lot for, bringing this product to the public, and in order for me to find it, because it's one of my, staples every day to keep me on this side of the spectrum. So thank you very much.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. I mean, I appreciate it. And I don't know if you've had a chance to read the Magnesium Miracle, Jason, but I do have a section on head injury and magnesium. And doctors should know this. I have references, reference 180, 180, 181, where traumatic brain injury, major health problem throughout the world, 400,000 patients with TBI, traumatic brain injury in the United States alone. From animal studies, we know that brain magnesium levels fall dramatically at the site of head injury as this mineral is depleted in a nonstop cascade of acute events. And it goes on, following human subjects, and that magnesium ions change in the blood after a head injury. So when I read your story, I said, yeah, this is a TBI early on, where children, especially if you were active, children don't have high levels of magnesium. They burn it off. They sweat it off. And when you have a brain injury, then your body's under massive stress. It uses up all the extra magnesium. I can't say for sure, but it sounds like then you woke up, with the darkness of not having enough magnesium, which is the spark of life. They use magnesium to make fireworks, for Pete's sakes. So, as I said, I can't say if it's 100% magnesium deficiency, but the fact that after, what is it, Jason, 30 years, 25, 30 years since your injury?
Maybe even a little more. I would go 40 plus.
Yeah. Even after 40 years, taking saturation doses of the Remag, which you can take because it does not tend to cause a laxative effect, then it was able to heal your brain, because the cells are always wanting to be perfected. And when you give them the building blocks, then, they just go to town and they heal up old scar areas. They do a lot. So what you were doing, for those 40 years from the injury to getting magnesium, or enough magnesium, was your body searching for a reason, searching for an answer. And the fact that you tried, up to 10 different types of magnesium, you knew you were onto something. But, we're just so blessed to be able to offer the Remag, which, this type of stabilized ion of magnesium is not available anywhere else. And that's why it seems to have worked for you, because it's absorbed directly into those cells, which are trying so hard to process the 1,000 enzymes that they're supposed to work with. Now, the other thing that comes to mind is Pico Silver. I don't know if you've worked with that as well. Have you? Or Pico Silver?
I do Pico Silver. I would use Pico Silver more topically, like on a cut or an abrasion.
Yeah, because if you read the Pico Silver small booklet at the same place you can get this our total body reset for men, at drcarolyndeanlive.com, it helps stimulate stem cell production in the bone marrow. So if people have an organ injury or a problem, silver is still used in hospitals for burns. It will heal deep burn wounds. So it's very powerful. Well, this making stem cells mean the original naive, baby cells that then can direct themselves to the priority area in the body to fix things, to heal up injuries. Like I said, if people still have some scar tissue in an area of the brain where they had an injury, I mean, heaven forbid, an injury, a concussion like Jason had, it can lead to seizure symptoms, where a focus in the brain just the electrical conductivity doesn't work properly and jams up against scar tissue, people can have seizures. And even that, the magnesium and the pico silver together, I think, will actually heal those areas. And, Jason, most of the people who've written in the book, written their stories, they're athletes, and they've all been injured. They've all gone through, from head to toe, any injury you can imagine. And with REMAG and, as you said, Remite and potassium and zinc, it's all going to be healing them at the cellular level. So, Ginny, yeah, I know I tend to go on, but what questions came for you with Jason? What more do you want to ask him?
I think if anybody right now is on the phone or listening to the show through YouTube, or we have our podcast downloaded from now until eternity, and they are struggling with some kind of darkness or mental depression, Jason, do you feel like the minerals is an essential thing for them to incorporate, even if they didn't get a head injury or they didn't have some kind of a significant event? How do you think it would just help everyday people?
Yeah, I think, you living in a darkness and not knowing what that is. And that's another problem is, especially with men, we're forced to move on. You got to clock in, you got to put your 8 to 10 hours in, you got to commute. We have all these set structures, and you can't have weakness. You got to do this. But yeah, if you don't feel this perpetual light, or you're in this darkness, or you're battling with stress and anxiety, magnesium would be a fantastic baseline just to start there. And don't overdo it in the beginning, ease into it. But as you ease into it, that natural relaxer, the natural help with the stress, and then even the anger or whatever the byproduct of that depression could be, it's going to give you a light at the end of the tunnel. And once you see that light, it might save you right away. But your journey, you could see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's a way to go. You found the exit. So I think, for sure, I would start with anyone that would talk to me or, would discuss this with me. I give them the magnesium samples that I have and tell them, take this first. Start here, put it in a smoothie or put it in some water. It's not the most appetizing, it's not the most palatable thing, magnesium. It's almost like salty pool water. But if you put some lemon in it, or your vitamin C powder, that's a fantastic mixer. Even with the Himalayan sea salt, the magnesium, squeeze a lemon, squeeze a lime in your water, fantastic way to get it down. But after a while, you acquire a taste of this too. So I would say go for it.
Right on. Very good. Very good. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. I want to bring James onto the show too, because one thing that you guys have in common is both a passion for fitness and for doing the work that needs to be done, whatever the determined effort is, to get your body in balance physically. And using the product. So James, let me bring you on. Sorry, I said that your phone, actually it was the YouTube channel that was echoing earlier. Are you there, love? James?
Yes, I am.
There you are. There he is.
Hey, James. Hey, buddy.
Happy to be here. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Thank you very, very much for having me on.
You're awesome. We love you, James. So, and your story really hit home. And as we did with Jason, do you want to give an overview of your story so that people can understand why we love you so much?
Thank you. Yes, for sure. So I had always had it in my head that I was the overweight child or obese and had health, or not really health issues at the beginning, but I was always 20 or 30 pounds overweight. And back in about 2014 through 2016, I was gaining a significant amount of weight, and I ended up at about 280 pounds. And that wasn't sustainable anymore when I started having health issues because of it. I was laying down one night and my feet were tingling. It was as described as, diabetic nerve pain. So I figured with the onset of probably type 2 diabetes and all the other health issues I was, only giving myself, my body wasn't doing it. It was only reacting to what I was not doing with my body that was creating all these issues. So I didn't even know what it was originally until probably about a week of dealing with that. And it was brought up in a customer service call, and I was like, oh, I had that. And that's when I realized the gravity of the situation that I was dealing with. So I wanted to, start losing weight, and that was probably the biggest thing I ever came up against, was how, as a naturally big guy, am I to lose, a significant amount of weight. And I was introduced to intermittent fasting, and had to really figure my way. I wanted to figure out my way through it, because although I could have listened to multiple people that speak on the subject, I knew the defining parameters was eat in a smaller portion of the day, and then rest and process what you consumed. And then when your body is done with what nutrients you've used or added to your system, it would then pull from the reserves or the rest of your body. So I figured that was the way I was going to go. And through years of sticking with it, and mostly just not eating dinner, but making sure I was getting my nutrients elsewhere, and definitely the minerals helped out there. That was the best decision, was to add the minerals. I went through a whole month of setting myself up and giving myself confidence that I could continue this process. And after the first month, I was like, okay, well, time to restore what I drained from my system, and turned to the minerals, and had the best time with it. It was really easy to incorporate, and the restructure actually helped me out the most in the beginning with not feeling hungry in the mornings, because that was one thing I was always worried about, was being hungry in the morning and then foggy throughout the day. So incorporated the minerals, and to date, I weighed myself so I could have an accurate number here, and I am 195 pounds. So I've gone from 100 or 280 down to 180 at my lowest, and then went back comfortably around 190 to the 200 range.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's pretty
That's
amazing.
awesome. Congrats.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Yeah, Jason, do you work with weight loss with your clients?
I try not to stress weight loss, because because that's such an ominous task, but we do talk about baby steps, how the movement is the first step. And then when people start moving, and then they're like, oh, I'm feeling better, then, one thing I stress is I try to get people to eat more than 5 servings of veggies a day. And, just the standard American diet is so bad right now. They say 5. Can you get 5 veggies a day? And I'm like, well, don't count fries. It's not really a veggie, or ketchup. But, there's ways to do it. So after a while, people start changing their physique, and it goes from, a little frumpy around the gut to, a little bit thicker around the shoulders, and they start getting strength, and at that point, some of the weight comes off. And we do some high intensity training as well that really helps, along with the intermittent fasting, about really getting the glycogen storage burned and then going into the fat storage to replace the glycogen storage. So there is some method to the madness that we do, but I try to stay away from the weight loss, just because so many people try it and fail. And with James is 100 pounds or 100 plus, it's just amazing when you hear that success story. And how people are committed to that. When they get committed, there's nothing that can stop them. So I got nothing but love for you, James, in that process.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you
James,
very much.
did you have an exercise program? I forget if you mentioned that in your story.
I actually stayed. I didn't get into exercise until probably about 50 pounds down, because I was worried about the damage or I could have been doing to my knees, or the excess strain.
Right.
But a lot
Right.
of a lot of it's low intensity, but high focus on mobility. So I want to make sure stretching and having my back chiropractor work and everything like that to try to resolve some of the issues that I did to myself over the years of being overweight, like my spine's out of alignment and some joint mobility issues. So I'm really focusing and dealing with the repercussions of everything that happened beforehand, and then moving forward with more of a focus towards health. I agree with Jason that if weight loss is all you're after, you're missing the rest of the pie, because the weight loss is more of a byproduct of having a mindset focused on a holistic aspect of health, and the mind, the body, the spirit. If you're just working on looking at the body, then you're probably missing out somewhere else that could be just as important.
Well, you both mentioned this now. I think, James, what you did is you wrestled your mind into doing this program. It's like that's where you started. You know what I'm saying? Other people, they might start with Remag, get some more energy and think, oh, I can exercise, or start with an exercise program and maybe lose some weight. But you just, you got your mind in gear. How did you do that?
Yeah, so I actually, focusing on the mind first was big for me, because if I could prove it to myself that it was possible, then anything beyond that was, just me having commitment to it. Funny enough, that's actually the one thing out of my journey I would change if I was to do it all over again. I would actually start with the minerals, because the benefit of having that extra energy from Realign and Remite, and some of the best sleep ever with Remag, those things would have helped significantly in that first month of me figuring out and proving it to myself. So if I was to do it again, I would do it the more standard way of doing things, of getting the energy and working out first, and then doing the diet change.
Right. So you approached it as to solve a problem. How do I solve this problem? And you put your mind to work. I mean, I do intermittent fasting, and I'll wake up in the morning, think, well, I'm not going to eat until such and such. I avoid breakfast, but I hear what you're saying about if you're going out to work, and I know, working for New Capstone Rna Reset, you're all over the place. So you need your energy through the day. So you eat breakfast and then a later lunch, but then you don't eat any dinner. Is that how you're doing it?
Yeah, so I work with breakfast and lunch, and then I miss out on dinner, but I do always want to make sure that I get as many nutrients as I can. And so I have a a fruit, some eggs, and a veggie in the morning, along with my restructure shake, with has Remite, Remag, Pico Zinc, and I'm not using Recalcia or potassium. So I think those are everything I add in the morning. And then I have my omega-3s, my D3K2, and my Realign actually at lunch. So I have that with my lunch.
Mm-hmm. And now you don't go home for lunch. So where do you get your lunch meal?
Well, I fell into another cliche there with the meal prepping. So I buy a litany of meat and vegetables, and I meal prep on Sundays. So I have all my little to-go containers and things of
Oh,
that nature. And when I'm out on the road, driving around my wonderful state of North Carolina, I will normally be easily find a health-oriented
mm,
establishment to eat at. Uh, and I'll have a salad or something, easily managed.
mhm. Is it,
That's tough to do in North Carolina, is find a health a healthy restaurant. And with the barbecue here, it's fantastic. I'm not trying to rip out North Carolina, but there's not a lot of good healthy options out there on the road, is there, James?
but if you look at keto, if you can get a piece of meat, chicken, meat, fish, that's not, that's pretty plainly cooked, and, maybe a salad, that kind of fits into the keto plan. Would you say you're keto, James?
No, I didn't go as intense as keto. I more or less worked with a calorie deficit. So
Mm,
I allowed myself at the beginning, and then with it working, I just continued with it. But I allowed myself to eat anything as long as I didn't go over that 2,000 calorie mark.
oh, I see. Right,
Yeah,
right, right.
that was my initial parameters, and then after
Right,
that, the calorie number meant less to me, but the nutrition amount became more important. So
right,
if
right.
a serving of veggies would put me over a little bit on my calories, I would be okay with that, because I know that I have a 16-hour fast coming, and that I would be able to process all that.
Right. Yes, and what I've always said is people just keep eating if they're not getting their nutrition or nutrients from their food. They just keep eating more food because it's like, I need to get that extra bit of magnesium or vitamin C or whatever. And the fact that you're able to take the completement formulas when you're doing your intermittent fasting means that your body's always going to be saturated with nutrients. So you're not going to be craving food. Do you find that? I mean, people would say, good grief, you're missing a whole meal. Aren't you starving or
Uh,
craving?
so that question has come up a lot, and
Mm,
I originally would have agreed with them. I now that you mention it, I thought it was the size of my stomach that was controlling my hunger, but you said the nutrients, and I think well, of course you're most definitely right there. I really don't feel hungry at any point in the day, but I
mm,
do remind myself and know that I should eat at these times, and that's more often where I'm reminding myself to eat. I probably can do a 24-hour fast and still not feel hungry.
mm,
It's just not something I've attempted, but I really don't feel hunger pains or anything like that anymore. At the beginning, it was a little rough in the beginning. You'd get hungry at like 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and that's really the challenge mode, because you're
mm,
you're going to bed in a reasonable hour of 2 or 3 hours, depending on how late you stay up, and the last thing you want to do is add a bunch of food on top of that, because your body's
mhm,
supposed to be working through the night and getting
mhm.
everything reset for the next day, and then you just added a 600 calorie meal for it to work on.
Right. Yeah. And Jason mentioned this, and you certainly have written about it in your story, James, that when you're on this the fasting period of your 24 hours, your body goes to your liver and eats your glycogen stores. So it's what I call liver snacking. So you're snacking on your liver. In the beginning, the body's not used to this, because humans are so addicted to eating every 2 or 3 hours. You never feel hungry, and you never get to use up your glycogen stores in your liver. But then your body gets adapted to it. Oh, okay, yeah, I know how to break that down. And when all those glycogen stores are used up, then you go to your fat stores and you start going into fat burning. And that's what we're after in intermittent fasting, is to burn the fat, the excess fat that the body doesn't need. So there's a real science to intermittent fasting that I think is very appropriate, that keeps our livers in check. I think the quote epidemic of fatty liver that's occurring, that's not related to alcohol, is related to people just eating and eating and eating and never taking a break so that they can break down the glycogen building up in their livers. I'm going to go to Ginny now, because we've had a great run here, but we need to get to questions for the guys on the chat or on YouTube. Ginny, what do you have for us there?
Well, one thing I want to say is that everybody says that James has a dreamy, dreamy radio voice.
I know he does. He does.
Thank you.
It's like Casey Kasem.
James, you've missed your calling. You
I
should
know.
be on the radio.
He is. He is.
Oh,
So
Hey,
he's going to be a
The
regular
first day.
guest.
that's right.
Oh, that's wonderful.
That's right. We'll bring you on the show more often. Now we know how dreamy you sound. I mean, he's very handsome man anyway. So
Mhm.
now we'll know for sure. He's got the looks and the voice, and we'll put him on the radio show. Everybody's having so much fun listening to you guys talk. I don't think we've had a lot of questions other than thanks so much. I love hearing the stories, and not a lot of questions. I know that we have had a lot of men, especially. That was one of the topics that the guys wanted us to cover, was intermittent fasting. So if you're on the line or listening to the show through YouTube and you do have a question about intermittent fasting or even physical training, anything that Jason or James brought up, feel free to ask your questions of them. They may have some tips for you before we wrap up this first hour on the show, coming to the top of the first hour. And the next hour, we will have another guest with us. We will have Greg coming in and talking about his vision of health and vitality. So questions, anybody? Nothing right this second.
Well,
okay, Carolyn?
Yeah, let me just, here's something that came to mind when Jason was talking. There was another mental health story that Roman presented, but I put Roman's story into the heart chapter with Kevin. Kevin, he had heart arrhythmias after he started hot yoga, and then his heart rhythm went off. So he had quite a journey there. But Roman, he came to us as a customer having heart arrhythmias, but they came along. He was about 50 when he came to us, and since he was 18, he was suffering anxiety and panic attacks. And in trying to cope with his anxiety, he suffered depersonalization and vertigo, was on 18 different drugs at one point. And I think they totally depleted him of his minerals. So he developed this heart symptoms. And his anxiety and panic attacks came from being abused when he was young. So, there's another sort of entry point of people, men and women, but we don't hear a lot about men suffering abuse. And, maybe they don't talk about it as much as women do. I have no idea. And that is, that's problematic, because what a doctor should know is the history of a patient. But what happens, as happened to Roman, is you're just medicated. And what Jason said is, well, he self-medicated. You're looking for a way to, find that little flicker of light in your life. So Roman, it took him until, I guess he didn't come to us until after he was 50, because by 50, he was having atrial fibrillation, supraventricular tachycardia, and all the rest of it. But when he started on our program for his heart, he found his anxiety, and even his depersonalization went away. He's been with us as a customer for, about 8 or 9 years. So Roman's story is in there as well, and it's just so wonderful that we're able to give people the building blocks to help their mind, body, and spirit. So, Ginny, we
Absolutely.
have 8 minutes. Jason, do you want to give some wrap-up comments?
Yeah, I think ultimately in this, life that we have right now that we're living, first of all, in the men's world, a mindset like James to make a choice to do something. For me, mine was not really a mindset, but I was just intrinsically looking for something. But at a certain point, once you make that choice to go help yourself, the help is out there. The help is available. This podcast is an amazing modality for many people with their health and wellness. So, if it's not, reading a book or Googling something, call someone, talk to someone, find someone that can lead you down a path to an expert that can help you start formulating a plan and creating a better mindset for you in this wellness, because it's available, it's out there. And I know that, I'm looking at my counter and I got the vitamin C powder, I got the potassium, I got the magnesium, the zinc, and, all these are part of my daily modality. And for me, that is my foundation. What you said is you're not as hungry, you're not as searching, you're not as just eating because you're well nourished. You're well nourished because your minerals are amazing. So that's the start, is ask, go find someone to help you. And, this journey is not, you're not alone, especially in the mental wellness darkness. If you're dark, if you don't have those feelings, if you don't know it's happening to you, but you just don't feel right, reach out. Let's get some help. I mean, there's so many people out there that are struggling with this, and the suicide rates are at an all-time high. And, anything we can do to help, please call me. Go to my website, justgrinding.com. Ask me for help. I'm here, just to talk, whatever that is, but I want to help.
All right. And that's just grinding.com. And I don't know that you or James mentioned the RNA reset drops, but we're coming to the top of this first hour. But I want you both, if you have the time available, to stick around and hear what Greg is going to say about the RNA reset drops, because we do feel and know that those drops can give kind of a level of detachment, a sense of the light, and a sense that there's something bigger that we're all striving for. It's hard to express it, but hopefully we'll find words in the second hour. James, what's your summation?
Oh, very good. Well, in a million words boiled down to a few, much like Jason, whatever you have to do to take that first step, whether it be Googling, whether it be calling, whether it be typing in on a Monday night radio show, as long as you take that first step, that's probably the hardest, overcoming that inertia. And then my biggest thing that I fell into is I was looking for results immediately. Give it time, trust your body, and as the wonderful RNA reset is, relax and allow, and you will reset yourself to a better version of yourself. So
beautifully said. Ginny, what's your summation of these awesome guys?
James is coming back on the show with us on a regular basis to show off his voice and to say his words, because he doesn't get to hide anymore. And then let's see. You know what? I just think it's so exciting because we have such great customers and partners in this journey, and there are a lot of people who are really committed. And what's the most important thing is everyday guys like Jason and James who are out there doing it and taking their hits, making their strides, and making a difference. And that's what I love so much. And it just their willingness to come on and talk to our audience for this length of time and to also make themselves available. Everybody knows James can be found through our company, RNAResetPro.com. He's on the website. You could click his name and make an appointment with him to talk to him if you feel like you needed to do that or had other questions. And then, of course, Jason has put himself out there too. So that's the main thing, as always, with our show that we're always trying to say is we do have what it takes. We do have that intelligent design behind us, and we do have the cooperation of the universe, spirit, whatever you want to say. And we want to absolutely encourage everybody to know that we're here, we've got your back, and we want you to keep going.
We got your back, and the worst is over. And the first step is the step that we can help you with.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Very good. All right. So we're going to take a break. We'll be back with hour 2. Jason and James, you're welcome to hang out with us. Greg will join us, and we'll keep chitty-chatting away. Thanks, everybody. And Dr. Dean will take your calls as well in hour 2.
Back with hour 2 of the Dr. Carolyn Dean live radio show, along with host Ginny Sanders, right after this brief station break. You can also get updates and resources online by visiting drcarolyndean.com. That's drcarolyndean.com.
Did you know there are 65 health conditions associated with magnesium deficiency? Magnesium deficiency is a public health crisis growing in scope and proportion. Dr. Carolyn Dean, author of The Magnesium Miracle, has identified over 65 health conditions associated with magnesium deficiency, 100 factors that lead to magnesium deficiency, and 24 reasons why magnesium deficiency occurs. Order The Magnesium Miracle today at Amazon.com and learn how to remedy this pervasive condition.
Do you have questions about your health? Are you wondering about alternatives? Do you ever wish you could have 5 minutes with a doctor you can trust? Someone who is an internationally recognized authority in the field of natural medicine? Meet award-winning doctor, naturopath, and best-selling author of The Magnesium Miracle, Carolyn Dean, MD, ND. Hear a wealth of information designed to empower listeners and callers to discover how to improve health, vitality, and well-being through a variety of safe strategies and nutritional options. Dr. Carolyn Dean Live. Shows can be heard every Monday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern, with weekly live shows, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network.
Natural health, vitality, and well-being. Yes, everyone wants it, but not everyone is sure how to achieve it. Dr. Carolyn Dean's Completement Formulas are more than just dietary supplements. They're whole foods and picometer minerals designed to complete your nutrition, not just supplement it. Experience the difference Dr. Dean's formulas make. Visit RNAReset.com to learn more. That's RNARESET.com.
Omega Institute, offering workshops, retreats, and online learning dedicated to awakening the best in the human spirit. With more than 40 years at the forefront of holistic studies, Omega is known the world over as a trusted source for integrated approaches to personal growth and social change. Located in Rhinebeck, New York, just 90 miles north of New York City, Omega's natural environment and quiet pace allow for extraordinary experiences to unfold. Learn more at eomega.org or call 877-944-2002. Again, 877-944-2002.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
Return now to the Dr. Carolyn Dean live radio show, along with her host, cohort, and good buddy, Ginny Sanders. Phone lines are open during live broadcast.
Welcome back, everybody. Hour 2, live with Dr. Carolyn Dean here on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. And everybody knows Hour 2 is always the most fun part of the show. This is where we get down and dirty. It's kind of like the backstage after concert. And then we talk to Dr. Dean and we do all kinds of cool and groovy dancing. And this is not going to be any different because we are going to go wide open to talk about one of the things that we just love so much in the whole wide world and the things that we don't understand more than anything, which is the RNA drops. And in order to do that, we're going to bring on Greg Sanders, who was one of the very first people to use the drops. And he's got a lot to say about all kinds of things because he's been at the health and wellness and vitality thing for a long time. So let me see if he's around. Anything you want to say about the first hour, Carolyn, before we bring Gregory in?
Yeah, it was great. I want everyone to get a copy of the ebook. Send it. It's a free ebook. You can send it out to all your friends and family because, you know, when guys are talking to guys, it's I think it's much more dramatic that these gentlemen are sharing their stories, and that's what sort of can pull people in, make them realize, well, gosh, if that guy can do it, I can do it. I mean, that's what I feel in my world. If I see someone doing something, and well, if they can do it, I can do it. So that's what stories are for, right, Ginny?
Yes, absolutely. They are definitely for encouragement and inspiration, 100%. And, you know, we can't make medical claims and stuff, so we do rely on people to share their experience, but we do have that commonality, Carolyn, as you said, and if it works for somebody else, it could very well work for me. And that's what we're all about, is sharing that information. So let's bring on our next guest. Greg, are you there?
Testing.
There's another radio voice, Ginny.
Yes,
you're surrounded by them.
I am. I know, it's amazing. Hey, how are you?
It's a beautiful evening. I'm good.
Okay, very good. So we were talking in the first hour, Greg, and we told everybody that the Total Body Reset for Men book is available through drcarolyndeanlive.com now. If they go to Dr. Carolyn Dean Live and look in the menu at the top and hit books, the first book that you'll see is the Total Body Reset for Men. And that it's a compilation, 9 chapters of people who made their contribution based on their health experience. And of course, one of those being yours truly, yourself, and your health experience working with the products and Dr. Dean, but also just a little bit of your background. So if you wouldn't mind opening up with a little bit of your background and kind of what you contributed through the book.
Okay, well, I think I was a health hobbyist way back in the mid 70s. People thought I was kind of nuts when I would say things like, well, you are what you eat. That was totally inconceivable to most of them. But I followed a general regiment of just what I believed at the time with the information that was available of eating healthy and exercise and moderation and all that good stuff. What surprised me that I've seen for 40 years is that most people's idea of being healthy is lack of sickness. And they say, well, yeah, I'm healthy. I haven't been sick in years. And, I've dozens of friends who said the same words, oh, yeah, my dad was healthy, never sick a day in his life and dropped dead, of a heart attack or stroke or whatever it was at the time. And I've had other friends who've been involved in marketing health food stuff, and they said the same thing. People go, well, why do I need this? I'm healthy. So it's the degree of healthiness gauged by the lack of disease. But we all know that, a lot of the things that happen to people's body creeps up slowly, and people buy into the old age plan. And so they say, well, this is acceptable. I'm supposed to creak when I'm in my 60s. I'm supposed to feel like this, et cetera, et cetera. So I've never been able to relate to people my own age, just from a physical or a mental point of view. I've been a health hobbyist. And looked at all the different, what's the perfect diet? What's the perfect water? What's the perfect meal? What's everything? And, I've distilled it down to a few things that are perfect for me. And it really started a good 10, 11 years ago when I was lucky enough to be one of the first people to take the Rna Drops. And once I started doing that, I literally ended all additional supplements. And of course, this was before Remag was available and some of the other things that Dr. Dean has brought to market. Literally stopped going to the chiropractor. Just had a feeling that this product was going to allow my body to do what it does naturally, which is keep me in top shape. Try to keep my mind out of it, balance in all things. And so I consumed them twice a day. And yes, there was tons and tons of small little effects that I noticed immediately. But having gone down that route for over 10 years, I'm well into my late 60s. I feel great. It's nothing for me to move 2 tons of stone around in the garden over a weekend. And I think that the drops, although people say to me, well, what is it? Excuse me. And I think, we have to entertain the fact that our bodies aren't just substance, but they're frequency. And although barley has been an old-timey water treatment program for farmers in their ponds for hundreds of years, if you look at the substance in the drops, is that all that is in it is responsible for, what I've experienced over the last 10 years? And I'd say no. I would have to say there's frequency involved. And it's not a well-understood science. But I've certainly seen enough effect. I spoke about it in the book of visiting my father up in Toronto, and he'd smack the back of his hand. I think it was 83 or 84. And I mean, it was black, scary, scary, scary black. And at the time, all I had was some of the concentrated Rna Drops with me, and I put it on his hand 3 or 4 times, left him for the night, came back to see him early afternoon. He said, have a look at this. And the back of his hand was normal. I wish I had done it before and after. But I mean, that black, let's go to the hospital and amputate this kind of black, was all gone. So, I've had enough feedback in my life. I've put the drops in our Christmas tree here at home every year, and probably don't lose 2 cups of needles from Thanksgiving to well after New Year's. So it has a broad range of effects, and they're subtle. I've always believed that our body is way more powerful than the meme we've been told. And this whole old age plan, if you don't believe me, just go try to buy a birthday card for somebody over 50 and look what they're saying on the birthday cards. Oh, you're getting old. Here's a gift certificate for Depends, or whatever it is. And so I had to do my part. It's not just, taking a supplement or an ingredient. I have to be able to discipline my mind. and not buy into that old age plan. So the drops have been significant enough that it's probably the number one thing I would go to. I travel with them, take them every day, may have a rest on a Saturday or a Sunday. It's not like an aspirin, where my headache's going to go away in 20 minutes. But there's enough external evidence for me to continue to take them, as long as they're available.
Wow.
How's
Very
that?
nice. Very nice. This is the point where, when people say, well, prove it, or how do you know, and all the rest of it. Well, at a certain point, you just have to try something. And I think a lot of people have said to us about the drops that they just got a feeling that they wanted to try them. They just had this intuition that it might be what they were missing. And I guess maybe I'll ask Ginny about what do customers say about the drops? I know we talk about the mood or enhancing where you're at, or the detachment. Can you put it in better words than I'm able to?
Well, I think one of the things that Greg brought up, which I had totally forgotten about, was he stopped taking any other supplements he was on at the time.
Right.
And now we don't have the luxury of telling people to do that because we don't want them to, per se. But as Greg said, it was before you had developed everything, because the drops were first, and then the Realign came out, then the Renew, and then the Remag. Even though you had Remag in development, it had not fully come to the market yet. In the first year and a half or so, we were running out with these other products. I think that in the beginning, when people were only taking the drops, that's where the real evidence of what the drops could do, because they were so powerfully contributing to people's heart health. I remember in specific, and remember we had all the testimonials about people who had ejection fraction issues, blood pressure issues, and these kinds of things. And they seem to be very popular for circulatory problems. And they also had a lot of benefit for movement and pain, just people feeling lighter, easier, more free. But again, to Greg's point, that could be the frequency, or the homeopathic, or however we want to talk about the energy medicine, or the vibrational field, or your force field, or however people want to talk about that. The renewal of that position is, I think, very important.
Right. And to your point, Carolyn, I do remember us meeting a couple at a health expo, and these people were an absolute Adonis. They were organic, and they were exercising, and they had clear eyes, and they were floating off the floor. And I remember you talking to them, and they had a couple of issues, and you just went, well, that's magnesium deficient. And I remember you talking to me a couple of weeks later and saying, yeah, they started taking your Remag, and all those issues went away. They were organic. They were drinking pure water. Whatever. They were on a program. So the point I'm making is, even if you're, 100% organic and this and that, the world's changed. The soil has changed. The rain that comes down has changed. There's not the minerals that are in food when I started on my, health hobby quest back in the mid 70s. And that's why I started taking all the supplements, because I recognized that, and we do a lot of seed analysis, soil analysis, water analysis, and I see the effect of it. The world's changed. So yes, I'm on the full program of the supplements with the RNA drops, and I know that my body is going to be able to adapt to any of the changes in the environment. And I trust that.
Right. Adapt, adopt, and survive. But it's more than survival. We are thriving. I mean, there's just no question. And here's where I should throw in the radish experiment. I know you guys have heard it a million times, but here's what I say. Where am I saying this? Oh, in the booklet, Complete Guide to the Completement Formulas. We have so many formulas now. We have a booklet, a 37-page booklet about them. And here's the radish experiment. It's been difficult to explain the RNA reset drops. So difficult, I haven't been able to write a book about them like I have for most of our other products. So in order to satisfy my scientific curiosity, I initiated the radish experiment. We talk about it in one of my webinars. And in the booklet, you can click to that webinar. We call the waste product from the drops, which is barley straw, because our RNA drops are made from germinating 100 pounds or more of barley seeds, for Pete's sakes. So what we did was put in one plot, we put the straw, dug it into the soil, and planted radish seeds. In the other plot, we didn't do anything. On day 25, both plots were harvested. We were shocked to find that the mash plot produced 85 pounds of large, beautiful, bright red radishes. The non-Mighty Mash plot only produced 3 pounds that passed inspection and could be sold. The majority were wormy, small, and deformed. So what I realized from this experiment was that insects, worms, bacteria, and weeds are only programmed to attack weak, dying, or dead life forms. It's their prime directive to take out the trash. Humans, animals, and plants are surrounded by similar invaders and only succumb when they are in a weakened state. RNA reset mash and infused the radishes with life and energy and made them incompatible with the organisms looking to cull out the weak plants. And what we know about our RNA reset drops and the Mighty Bash, it's a prebiotic and a probiotic. So there are soil-based living bacteria that make their way into the soil, make their way into our bodies, and create the frequency that gives us this spark of life. What can you add to that, Greg?
I would agree, having also, been a horticulturist and involved in hydroponics in another lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
All of the life on this planet is in the top inch of soil. That's where all the organisms exist. And my pet theory with the mash that we put in the soil is that it makes the bacteria happy. But then again, there's that frequency component where there's something that the plant can take up into its nutrient system, which typically are just chemicals. It can only take up nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, magnesium, and all the trace minerals. But something else is going on that causes that plant to respond to it. And I've seen it in my experiments with the multiple house plants that we grow here. It's beyond substance. And if people say to me, well, should I start taking the drops? Sure, but commit for 6 months because your body has been a certain way for a long period of time. And the one thing that humans don't usually allow in themselves is shock. And shock would be waking up one morning, and all of a sudden jogging 10 miles and lifting 500 pounds and running around the office and getting a million things done. So our bodies naturally temper, in my opinion, temper things down so that change is slow and isn't necessarily noticed. And to the case where we know people who have been first-class flight attendants, all their life doing the Canada-Europe route and waking up every morning with jet lag in Germany or in England or in Ireland. And, traveling with the drops. And all of a sudden one day they wake up and they go, uh-oh, where's my jet lag? They don't even remember the last time they had it. And that's one of my pet things is RNA also stands for relax and allow. You can't wake up reproducing yesterday, today, and expect change. So the product relaxed them enough for them to not even be able to go back in their mind and say, when did I stop feeling jet lag? And I've had those experiences myself to the point where it's like, I don't care if a burning bush is talking to me. This is what I've experienced. And that's how it's worked, relaxing my mind so that my body can do its natural thing. without my mind reinforcing, oh, I was born with fill in the blank. Therefore, I am going to suffer this way. It helps to relax the mind, and I'm a perfect example of that.
Right. That detachment. Yes, Jenny, we've had many people who said to us, oh, all of a sudden I woke up and found out I no longer had my neck pain, knee pain, or whatever. Our friend with ankylosing spondylitis, I think the RNA drops were a big part of his turnaround, where the fused spine of ankylosing spondylitis that he'd had since he was a kid in his 50s. He started to ride a bicycle and just, whip around like a kid. So, yeah, there are a lot of stories. And exactly like Greg says, though, we like you to hear about the stories, but don't think, well, tomorrow I'm going to wake up fine. It's almost like you take the drops and then you let them do their work and you stand back and you try not to even give it much attention either way. You just commit to take them for, the 6 months is a good amount of time, and then check in with yourself after a few months.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
go ahead. Sorry, Greg.
No, I remember a friend of a friend who started on the drops and met up with him, and he was a truck driver and just a regular old guy. And he said, well, how long was it before you had some effect or felt this or that, at the drops? And I was like, oh, I don't know, like 3 or 4 weeks. And he stared at me like I had 3 heads. And I'm like, well, what was it like for you? And he went like 30 hours. But he had no expectations, and that's, I think, was the key. He had no expectations, didn't get his mind involved in it. And he went on a litany of things that he noticed as a truck driver and how he felt driving a truck. And he, so not everybody's like that. And this is why it's the best practice just to say to people, give it a try. Your body has its own intelligence. It will do with it what it needs to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's, I've seen enough examples of that to say it's pretty valid.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the other thing about the drops is the whole thing about what we saw with the Zyto machine, Carolyn, which is how it balances the out of balance stressors. And, going to the frequency, the energy, that component of who we are, which is very legitimate. When we had people take the drops and then measured their energy field, then they took the drops and they measured it again, there was a sense of calm that had permeated the person. And those out of balance stressors came back into alignment. So I think that there is a lot to be said about if we had something for health, for mind health, for mental health, besides the obvious remag, which goes to the deficiency, if there's no nutritional deficiency, then I would think the drops would be that answer, because they do seem to level out people's minds.
Mm-hmm. And we called them RNA. We say relax and allow, but also we're pretty sure that the RNA will go into the DNA blueprint and help perfect the blueprint, because over time our genetics does get tangled up with misinformation, miscalculation, abnormal forms that products like the 23andMe genetic testing, they get all wound up about, there's all these abnormal DNA patterns, and you could have this and you could have that. No, our body wants to be perfected, so we're giving it the building blocks. And I do think the RNA reset drops are the building blocks for RNA and DNA. Maybe at a certain point when we get through our other mineral studies that we're doing at the university level, maybe we'll be able to design a study and show what it can do. But in the meantime, you can be your own study, your own experiment. So that I wanted to say, are either James or Jason around? What are they getting from this discussion?
Jason left in the first hour, but let me just skip James on. James, so you can come back. He's there.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, go ahead.
Have you ever taken the drops, James?
Yes, I did. I took the drops for a few months, and I wasn't really dealing with anything. But one of the things I noticed was a really clean breathing is probably the best way I could say that. So normally, you'd have a sniffle or something. I just felt like I could fully inflate my lungs and and have that extra breathing room, which is something that has actually persisted since then. So it just took me to another level.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's when I first started taking them, I don't know that I noticed much except the taste. And we were having people tell us that they tasted all kinds of different tastes. Mine was kind of a tobacco taste. And I immediately thought, oh, I'm detoxing my father's cigarette smoke. And Ginny, who was having the Dorito taste? There were all kinds of different reports from people. So we've realized they were hitting people on an individual personal level at their, level of RNA and DNA, I would say. There's no standardization with these drops.
Yeah, I think the other thing, James, that you mentioned about the breathing reminded me that a lot of people use the drops to quit smoking.
Oh.
Remember back in the day when people were just taking the drops, they would notice that their addictions would start to fall away. They didn't want to smoke as much weed or cigarettes, or they didn't drink as much, or the booze. So that, again, frantic sense of can't get satisfied. And I know personally, I had quit because I used to smoke, and I quit smoking when I was taking the drops, of course. And I went from, like in 3 weeks, I was just done. It was over. So I think that there's something to be said for that, because now I'm thinking back about some of the testimonials. There was a whole lot of people who reported that they didn't have the same addictive behaviors, that they had noticed a ceasing or a release of it altogether.
Very good. Yeah, Ginny, I know you're involved with the discussion, but have you been able to check the chat line? Are there
people let me look.
Commenting or asking?
Okay, nope, everybody's just listening. Well, that happens when we get good talkers on the show, is people just have a tendency to listen and take it all in. So we don't have any questions on the chat line right now. And I know you have some testimonials and some other things you want to share. If we have any last minute. Go ahead.
There is one thing I did want to share. I think you remember we had an employee whose young son had face rash. And this is one of your customer services children. And of course, the mother had tried, 65 different salves and balms to put in this child's face. And, at 2 years old, or even 1.5, the kid just looked like fell off their tricycle at 30 miles an hour. And so I introduced it to one of my employees who was the father. And he said, "What do you think about my son?" And I said, "Well, you just start using it yourself." He said, "Should I put it on his face?" And I just instinctively knew moms put enough creams on this kid's face for a lifetime. So I said, "You just start taking the drops." And of course, what does the boy want to do? Wants to emulate the father. Daddy, let me have some. And I'll never forget his wife, who works for us in customer service, calling me literally in tears and saying, for the first time, all of this rash on his face was 90% gone. So can't be placebo. Little boy didn't even know what the heck they were taking. He just wanted to take what daddy was taking. And that was a wonderful story.
That's great. Yeah, Greg, I just came to mind. You have your story about skiing, and maybe not necessarily the drops, but probably the Remag helping you ski like a
Nope,
kid again.
that was before the Remag.
Oh my
I
gosh.
remember skiing. That was before Remag. I was skiing for the first time with the kids up in Virginia. Went down the slope and went, oh yeah, there's the normal lactic acid burn in the back of your legs, because skiing is using muscles that you don't normally use. And I gave it no attention. And it wasn't until 2 p.m, after probably a dozen runs, I went, oh my God, I haven't experienced any lactic acid in my legs. There was no fatigue whatsoever. And I, at the time I was not exercising at all. There was nothing to explain why that lactic acid I'd experienced in 40 years of skiing was gone. None at all.
Yeah,
Very pleased to experience that.
I think the thing that, we've been using the drops for 11 years or whatever. You don't really know what you're going to need until you get where you're going. And then when you do, you wish you would have packed for the trip, kind of like a thing. You know what I mean? And I don't think that, when you're in your 50s, that you think of what it's going to be like when you're in your 60s. And then when you're in your 60s, what it's going to be like when you're in your 70s. But I can honestly say I have just watched Greg build a greenhouse with his own bare hands. With his own bare hands. I mean, was more than 60-ish, more than 65. I mean, he's just in incredible shape, and he's got an amazing amount of stamina and endurance. Well, when you're in your 50s, you don't think, geez, when I get into my 65-ishes, I'm going to build a greenhouse, and I'm going to surely hope I have the energy and the stamina to do it. I mean, those are just activities that we don't normally think about. So I think the drops are for the long game.
Right.
There are people who are really committed to living well and living long and expecting to live well and expecting to live long. I mean, that's the thing. If you're going to write yourself off and just decide that, okay, well, it's over when I'm 65 and I'm going to do this and do that, maybe those drops aren't for you. I think one of the reasons why they appeal to men is because men are in it to win it for the big game.
Well, when you think of how the retirement age is supposed to be 65, and how people, Greg mentioned it a couple of times, how you buy into the aging game when you expect to end up with your personalized wheelchair, end up in the hospital with tubes running out of every orifice. That's what you'll get. And we just tell people that doesn't have to be you. You can create your own life plan. Excuse me.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see with James, who's younger, and get started on them earlier in his life, what his stamina and his ability will be, mental capacity. I think that, when you're healthier and you're happier, you have a higher level of vibration, frequency, joy, and that brings you and attracts to you a greater level of, wealth, vitality, well-being into your life. I mean, they just go hand in hand. A joyful expectation and a positive outlook, an expectancy that life is going to meet you, and that it's going to provide for you. And the drops seem to open people up to that. And I noticed that people who use them, whether it was the guys who wrote into the book or the people that we know and that we're in the circle with, they do have that situation. And also they are able to navigate through circumstances a lot more fluidly.
Right. Yes, it'll be interesting. Hopefully Jason listens to this part. I don't know if he's on the drops or not, but it would be really cool to hear what he has to say. I know that Michael in South Africa, for example, he said that when he started taking the drops, he no longer needed hallucinogens like ayahuasca that he'd been doing on a ritual basis. He said the drops gave him a more consistent level of inner seeking and illumination. So, there's all that. And yes, we just want people to get get the highest level of wellness. Certainly what everybody's expressing in our testimonials from customer services, they've never had a magnesium that's so well absorbed or so effective, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, we do want more people to take the RNA reset drops now, because that is their next step.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you, Greg, and thank you, James, for being on the show. We've got about another 20 minutes, and Carolyn, I think we've got some testimonials to do. And if anybody's on the line who wants to ask you questions, *9 on your phone. We've got a couple of hands raised here. Anything else you want to add, Carolyn, before we let these guys go?
No, just to thank you, Greg and James, wholeheartedly, and big hugs. I really appreciate you coming on. It means a lot to me and to our listeners. So
you're welcome.
Mahalo. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I'm glad you got the conversation started, and I'm glad we were able to add to it.
Yeah, and I can't wait for you to have your own radio show. Man, that voice.
We're bringing James back on for Spotlight. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm going to make him come on and say something.
I look forward to it.
Thank you. Okay, guys, thanks a lot. Take care.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, James. Thank you. Okay, what other things do we have to do that you would like to do, Carolyn?
Yes, well, our dear Jennifer brings us testimonials. So she got the specific testimonials for men. So let's run through them. You can keep track and see if anybody hits the I want to talk to you button, and I'll stop after each testimonial to see, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, Jacob is saying, I've been on Total Body Reset for a number of months. My life is now so much easier due to enormous levels of energy. My happiness starts as I wake up early in the morning, really looking for new exciting events in the day. I'm at the peak of my physical, mental, and spiritual life. It is all due to Dr. Dean's Total Body Reset. I exercise on a regular basis, and nothing seems to be difficult for me in life. I feel like I was given a new lease on life, taking into consideration that I'm 69 years old, still working full time, and treating alternative ways and supporting my wife with breast cancer. I send my thanks and gratitude to Dr. Dean. So there's a little bit of a typo there, but now the Total Body Reset, does that include the RNA Reset Drops, Ginny?
Oh, yeah.
So there's Jacob taking the drops, and he's, a couple of months, and there he is, swimming through life downstream.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right.
All right. Number 2, I started using Remag last winter because of a terrible back pain due to 2 consecutive doses of an antibiotic called Cipro. We know what Cipro is. This is sidebar. It's a fluoride drug. The fluoride can break down and bind with magnesium and put a magnesium fluoride compound, which is very brittle, into the tendons and joints. And in this case, it sounds like into this person, Anthony's back. I couldn't even go to bed because the pain was atrocious. After receiving the Remag, it took a few weeks, but the pain started to leave, and eventually after 3 months, it was pretty cleared up. Please take into consideration I have a stage 4 prostate cancer with bone metastases, and Remag still helped me. Because of this, I will order more, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you, Dr. Dean, for creating such a wonderful product. So what Anthony is doing there is by saturating with the Remag, excuse me, he's replacing the depleted magnesium that was caused by the binding of the fluoride with the magnesium in his body, creating the magnesium deficiency. And we'll have to assume that the magnesium, the Remag, is also bumping out the magnesium fluoride. the body has a turnover. If the magnesium fluoride brittle compound finds itself into cells, then those cells will go through a life cycle and die, and you can detox from such a poisoning. I would be taking Realign as well. This next one, Mark, is saying, thank you, Dr. Jean, for saving my life. I've been a longtime user of Remag. I also have a diagnosis of type 2 diabetes. A few years ago, I got lazy and stopped using Remag. Then I noticed significant edema in both my feet. As a former emergency medical technician, I recognize this as a sign of congestive heart failure. Also read about diabetes causing the kidneys to excrete an excessive amount of minerals. And then I recalled one of your books that a serious deficiency of magnesium causes heart disease. I began using Remag again, raised my dose to 1 tablespoon. It did not take long for my cardiovascular system to heal, as evidenced by the disappearance of edema in my feet. Good blood pressure, etc. Were it not for the information you've published about magnesium over the years, I would have given in to my well-meaning doctor's pressure to inject insulin daily for my diabetes and take multiple oral hypoglycemic medications, which would have accelerated the depletion of magnesium in my body, causing a downward spiral of my health, resulting in an early death, etc., etc. I've managed my diabetes today following Dr. Jason Fung's recommendation of fasting and intermittent fasting and your products. Again, thank you, Dr. Dean, for saving my life. Wow, pretty awesome. Ginny, any calls?
Yes, we do have a caller on the line. Again, if you're here to talk to Dr. Dean, *9. *9 will raise your hand in the studio and let us know you have a question or comment, and we will put you on the line with Dr. Dean. For now, we'll go to area code 731. 731, if you could hit the blue button or *6 to come into the call. Area code 731. There you go. Go ahead, please.
Hi, this is Priscilla.
Hey, Priscilla. How you doing?
I think I'm doing fairly well, except that I have a split tooth. I hit a bone chip in my hamburger.
Oh, dear.
And it split a molar all the way to the root.
Oh.
And the dentist either wants to do a root canal or pull the tooth. Send me to the oral surgeon to pull the tooth. Well, I don't want a root canal because of the chemicals. But I remembered that you talked about certain anesthetics that are not, certain ones that are worse for you. And I was wondering what those were, or what I should ask the oral surgeon to use.
So are you going for pulling the tooth?
Yes, I guess so.
Right. Well, it's...
You have something else? You have another suggestion that you would do?
Well, I've had root canals, and what I do is take my Pico Silver in. I'll get a new bottle so that they see that the seal's not broken. And I ask them to irrigate the canal with the Pico Silver so that they don't put in chemicals, and so that the Pico Silver will keep you from having any infection in the bed there that they're creating. And then afterwards, I put Remag and Pico Silver together and kind of gargle over the tooth, swish it around that tooth several times a day. So, I mean, that's what I've done. Because otherwise, with the gap there,
I'm deadly alert to the local anesthetic.
I see. Okay. Right.
And I wasn't sure that I'm tough enough to sit through the root canal procedure without any anesthetic.
Well, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say because most of the anesthetics are the same. What I say about anesthetics is mostly the ones to put you to sleep. They're fluoride based, but
Okay.
the local ones are. Uh, I don't even know if there's more than one or two of the local anesthetics. And
Well, there's
Mhm.
I'm anaphylactic reaction to the cane. There's
Oh, yeah.
lidocaine, novocaine, and benzocaine, and I don't remember. There's I think there's 6 of them that they tested, and they said it's the cane in the local anesthetic.
Well, you're asking me for a miracle, and I don't think I have one for you this time.
Well, what I was wondering, but the most of the general anesthetics are fluoride based.
Correct.
Yeah. All right. Well,
So yeah, if you could get a non-fluoride based general anesthetic, get them to put you to sleep and take it out.
right.
Yeah, that's what you would do. Right.
All right.
Okay.
And maybe it's a stupid question, but see, because I can't take ibuprofen and Tylenol and those things either.
Mm-hmm.
So I was considering taking my Remag lotion along and like liberally slathering my cheek before surgery.
Oh yeah, that would work. And also, taking a large dose orally before the surgery too. I mean, there's some general surgeons who are that smart about magnesium is they put up an IV of magnesium. And if you had a doctor who would give you an IV of magnesium, that would really help.
Well, the last time that I got a tooth surgery done, he knows he can't use his local anesthetic, so he was trying to find something, and he used Benadryl, but it ulcerated my mouth.
Yeah.
And he's up a stump, so it might help him if I were to take a new bottle of Remag and just tell him, can you use any of this for pain?
Right.
He wouldn't want to use that in the IV, would he?
No, but they have their magnesium.
It would have to be magnesium sulfate.
No, well,
IV
ask for magnesium chloride IV because that your body's used to that because that's what Remag is. Yeah. Don't go to the sulfate.
All right. Well, you may have just helped me a whole lot.
Oh, that's good. A little mini miracle.
Yeah, well, it's like, surely there has to be something we could do.
Of course. Yes.
And it's like the mag lotion, it's going to help. And this is my theory, it would help the muscles to relax. And it seemed to me like it would help expedite the healing.
Right. And look up an ear acupuncture chart. Because the jaw area is in the lobe of the ear. When I've had dental work, I have little ear acupuncture needles and I just stick one in my lobe of my ear, but you could just beforehand rub your earlobe hard for a while and then afterward as well. And that really does help.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome, Priscilla.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Good to hear from you. Great questions as always. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, Ginny.
Yes, that's wonderful.
I know Priscilla's. I mean, look, such a bright, happy person, and each time she comes, well, I'm deathly allergic to this, and this just about killed me, and and she's just adorable. It's really sweet. But there was one question that came in, and I should get to it. So Melody Rose will be happy. Okay, this gentleman is saying he's wondering what I would recommend for male hormones disrupted by short-term use of Propecia. Propecia is a hormone drug used for, I guess it's for male pattern baldness, for Pete's sakes. But let me just check. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Propecia. Come. Propecia. It's not letting me. My internet connection must be okay because I'm on with you. Hair restoration treatments. So it's a drug for hair restoration. No, it's not. That's what they side effect. It's used to shrink and enlarge prostate in adult men. So it's used for benign prostate hypertrophy, which I talk about in the book. So people don't have to use Propecia, which in this gentleman resulted in high testosterone, high hydroxyl testosterone, and high FSH. He wonders if they can be normalized without more hormone replacement. He says he follows cyclical keto with moderate protein, higher fat, low carb, avoiding wheat and dairy for years. It seems the enzymes for hormone conversion could have issues, possibly, or mineral levels could be off. Been taking chelated magnesium for years with methylated multi. That would be a multi with bees because it's the bees that are methylated. And it seems it does not absorb, as my RBC magnesium was recently 3.9, which is low, and stools loosen after 300 milligrams of magnesium. I'm starting your Remag, but looking for how hormone system can normalize or be reset overall with little harm from things like Propecia. So he sent the labs. One of the labs showed an autoimmune indicator slightly elevated, and his testosterone was elevated. So since this gentleman had not been getting a saturation dose of magnesium at 300, he was getting loose stools, then the Remag is definitely going to show us if things will sort themselves out, because what we're dealing with the Remag, and he should probably also take Remite as well for the different minerals. Even the zinc in there is helpful for the prostate, and Realign for taking out the trash, and just observe the shifts. I don't know if he's having any symptoms or he's just reacting to the labs. The fact that there is an autoimmune indicator that tells me that the immune system has been thrown off. Possibly there is yeast overgrowth. So I would go to, besides personally, if I were a man, I would take the Remite, Remag, Realign, do yeast management, which is Flora Revive and Pico Silver. And what the Pico Silver is going to do is give him the stem cell production that would go and help the prostate, and also help the different organs that are creating these excess hormones, because he even says it himself. He's wondering if his the hormone conversion could have issues. The enzymes that help to make the hormones, because any enzyme process in the body requires nutrients. 80% of the known metabolic function, which is involving enzymes, requires magnesium. So yes, hormone conversion enzymes would be in that bucket. And by taking enough ReMag, that could just sort things out. Basically, with anything that people ask us about, I mean, I can give these types of details, but with anything, it's take the nutrient building blocks that help the structure and function of any and all cells in the body, and do your own experiment and see how things improve, because they always do improve.
Those are perfect words to end the show with. We've got 1 minute to say our goodbyes, but they always do improve. Carolyn, anything else you'd like to add?
No, great show. I loved it. And every time we have a show like this, we think, oh, let's have more guests. It was great. It was wonderful. I enjoyed it very much. So thank you, everybody who participated. Go get the book at drcarolyndeanlive.com, the men's health book, and join us for our men's health seminar on Thursday. You'll get more email notices about that.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, everyone.
You've been listening to the Dr. Carolyn Dean live radio show. For questions about today's broadcast, email Dr. Dean at questions@drcarolyndeanlive.com. That's questions@drcarolyndeanlive.com.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life